You're with Julian on the Brown Note and Wire stand with Jeremy Corbyn, the ex-Labour leader in the UK, who I think has been treated appallingly by the British media. And he's basically the UK's Bernie Sanders. He came in on a wave of populism, but from the other side, on the ideals of democratic socialism, and saying that neoliberalism and right-wing economic policies had destroyed the country and that we needed to realign our values and our moral compass and our economic activity to support the public more. He was definitely painted as a socialist hardline lefty, which the British media have done to an extent the Americans would have done to Bernie Sanders. The public, like Bernie Sanders, said get lost to Murdoch and his acolytes, and he was incredibly popular and won 2 elections as a Labour leader with overwhelming support. He did much better than expected against Theresa May in her election, but unfortunately fell foul of a relentless campaign to paint him and his Labour Party as racists and anti-Semites, and the fact that the last election was pretty much solely about delivering Boris Johnson's Brexit at any cost, which is going really well. Now, he's just been suspended from the Labour Party. If you don't know what's happening with the Labour Party, there are the core Labour people who are the true believers in fairness and against neoliberalism and right-wing economic policies. And then there's Labour Light, who are defined by support for Tony Blair, and they're Murdoch approved, and no one ever moans when they lose elections that their whole ideology is flawed. It's amazing. Like Jeremy Corbyn loses an election, they want to throw out his entire ideology. Before Corbyn was leader, the Blairites lost 3 elections in a row against the Tories in the UK, and no one ever says, oh, we should throw their ideology out, ever. But he's been suspended because an EHRC report had found 23 instances of inappropriate involvement by Corbyn staff in anti-Semitism complaints, one of 3 ways the Labour Party had breached the Equality Act, the other being unlawful harassment and failure to provide appropriate training for handling the complaints. One of the complaints against Corbyn personally. In response, Corbyn said his team had acted to speed up, not hinder the process, that he did not accept at all the findings, and that the scale of anti-Semitism in Labour had been dramatically overstated for political reasons, so they suspended him pending an investigation from being a member of the Labour Party. Now, I 110% stand with Jeremy Corbyn. This has been an absolute disgraceful farce. If you want to know who Jeremy Corbyn is and how he stands on race, read the Wikipedia article. It's exhaustive. It's thousands of words long, and it paints a picture of the least racist UK political leader that we have had in the modern era. This is the guy that was leading, he set up in the 1970s a rally to support Jews against the National Front in London when the National Front were rampant. Now, this is the guy that was arrested for campaigning to end South African apartheid. He's like Bernie Sanders. You can see pictures of him from 20, 30, 40 years ago campaigning against racism. You've got, on one side, you've got Boris Johnson, a man that has been frequently racist and gotten away with it in his lovable racist way, particularly towards Muslims. You've got a Tory party that is absolutely riven with anti-immigrant sentiment that is overtly spoken about. And you've got a political leader, Boris Johnson, whose closest ally is Donald Trump, who had actual supporters waving swastika flags in the streets of Charlottesville, chanting anti-Jewish slogans. So the British media has gone after Jeremy Corbyn as an anti-Semite racist. No one from the Tory party's got touched. And the reason they did it is to make sure that he got killed off. Just like the Democrats wanted to kill off Bernie Sanders' ideology so that the establishment, neoliberal, centre-right Democratic Party could exist and not be beholden to these horrible socialist ideals of universal healthcare. The same thing happened to Jeremy Corbyn. All of the media turned on him and looked for a way to delegitimise his enormous popularity with the public, the fact that he's the most decent human being to have stood for political office, and they were prepared to go to Brexit and Boris Johnson just to destroy his ideology. One of his biggest crimes ever has been to support Palestinian human rights, as I do, and the pro-Israel lobby, who are intertwined with the Blairites in the Labour Party, regard that as a death sentence. You cannot come out and speak about Palestinian human rights or attack Israel as being an apartheid nation. Otherwise, you are toast in the UK politically to these people. So there then became this amazing campaign that the Labour Party were racist, despite him continually campaigning against racism in a manner that no Tory MP has ever done. They're the ones sitting there saying about how we've got to stop all these immigrants flooding our country, how we've got to stop Islam taking over our country. But no, the guy that's there saying that all of these things are racist and you shouldn't be saying them, apparently he's a racist. And what really has upset me about this is it shows the true colours of organisations. We think that there's a left and right media. There is no such thing. The Guardian newspaper I will never, ever give money to. In the same way that I cancelled my Sydney Morning Herald subscription, because when it comes down to it, you can be as progressive in your reporting as you want on a day-to-day basis, but when it comes down to it, the main fundamental thing we need to change in our Western societies is our right-wing neoliberalism. And every time that there's been an opportunity to do so, these newspapers have actually turned against the person trying to do it. The Guardian turned against Bernie Sanders and massively promoted Hillary Clinton, even though that could lead to Donald Trump. In the UK, they lobbied for him to be removed as Labour leader for 3 years. And twice they got him to face the public vote, and he won overwhelmingly. And they criticised everything about him. And when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter how progressive The Guardian is in 90% of its content. When it comes down to the main fundamental issue, they would rather we had Boris Johnson and Brexit than a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour. And that is disgusting, and I can never forgive them for that, and I will never give them money. There is no way. Read the Wikipedia article on Jeremy Corbyn, and you will see a completely uniform portrayal of somebody that has stood up throughout his entire life to racism, about how appalling the BBC and The Guardian were in actually attacking him personally and trying to smear him throughout the course of the last election for being an anti-Semite, something he certainly is not. Lots and lots of people have come forward and expressed solidarity with him, particularly Jewish leaders. The only ones that haven't are the pro-Israel lobby themselves, who don't like him supporting Palestinian human rights. What's happened to him is disgusting. He was the one chance that the UK had for change, and even the left-wing and supposedly central BBC and Guardian were happy that we had Boris and just destroyed the legacy of Jeremy Corbyn. Happy to have Boris and Brexit, even though Corbyn would have likely held a second referendum and presented a completely new paradigm for UK society, one not led by the Murdoch press. And these apparent bastions of unbiased news reporting or even left-wing news reporting have completely attacked him for years. So I stand completely with Jeremy Corbyn. There is absolute rubbish to say that he's an anti-Semite or that Labour has an anti-Semitism problem, when the majority of that is standing up for Palestinian human rights. That's not anti-Semitism. And when even his own party worked to make him lose the election, all the Blairites in the party wanted him dead. And that was like a third of the party working against their own party. Now, you might not like Jeremy Corbyn as a leader of the Labour Party. He certainly represents Labour values. So for you to actually help Boris Johnson and Brexit get in power makes you scum in my eyes. And I think that the Labour Party in the UK could well be heading for a schism. I think that it's time that Jeremy Corbyn started his own party or pushed it to the wire against the Labour Party, maybe start a Democratic Socialist Party. Hundreds of thousands of people have joined the Labour Party over the last 5 years in the UK because of him. And I think they're going to find out just how popular he is with the public. He's an honourable man. He stands for what he believes in, and what he believes in for once is good. And I think they're trying to erase him from history. And it's easy to consign someone to a dustbin if you've painted them as a racist. It's disgusting that the Labour Party do this. And I think the Starmer, the current Labour leader, has made a very, very unwise decision in pursuing this unnecessary course of action. All power to you, Jeremy Corbyn. I hope you return as either Labour leader or you start your own party and stand for actual Labour values, not Labour-light values. And as an aside, I think Labour in Australia need to understand that Anthony Albanese standing as close to Scott Morrison as possible is not what we want from Labour, and he's been a completely ineffectual leader, and I think he should go as well. So I stand with you, Jeremy Corbyn, always. You're a great man, a great leader, and you've been cruelly destroyed by the media, who, in the case of the BBC and The Guardian, should have been doing you a lot more credit than you've been given.